A very good morning to all the listeners and viewers of Hello Kolkata podcast, Kolkata Calling podcast series. After a brief hiatus, we are back again with a fresh episode of Hello Kolkata. And as always, we have a very special guest who I will be introducing very shortly. Um, Firstly, this is our 38th episode of Hello Kolkata podcast, and we just wanted to thank each and every one of you who love and follow Kolkata Calling, and who are also listeners of Hello Kolkata podcast for giving us their feedback, their love, and also healthy criticism. We take all of that in our stride. And today we have a very special guest joining us. So without further ado, let me quickly introduce him, and then I'll invite our guest onto the main stage. Today we have Ravindra Khandelwal, who is the CEO of Dhanwantary. Now, before I talk about Dhanwantary, let me talk a little about Ravindra as well. Ravindra is building and scaling the Dhanwantary business right here from Kolkata in Bengal. And he's doing a fantastic work. He's a dynamic leader in the pharmacy retail space, and he drives operational excellence and strategic growth at Dhanwantary Pharmacy. Now, a little bit about Dhanwantary Pharmacy. It is the oldest pharmacy chain in Bengal, in Kolkata, and it is a household name for many of us who are residents of Kolkata. Uh, they have been in operation in business since 1984, and they are an ISO 9001 certified international renowned company, and they are setting new benchmarks in the field of pharmacy, retail pharmacy every year, every month. They have served over 3 crore customers, and they're serving lakhs of customers every month. Uh, Ravindra has been, born and brought up in Kolkata. He's had experience outside as well, but he chose to build and scale Dhanwantary from Kolkata. So today we'll invite uh, Ravindra onto the main stage as our guest for Hello Kolkata podcast. Hi, Ravindra. Thank you
Hi,
so much for joining us.
hi, Shobit. It's been a pleasure. I'm so privileged to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. I know as CEO, you must be very busy, but really appreciate you taking the time. Ravindra, we were chatting a bit earlier, and we said, we'll, talk obviously about a lot of things today about building and scaling businesses from Bengal. But before we get into Dhanvantri and all the legacy and the growth plans, would love to understand a little bit about your own personal journey. Being from Kolkata, being a second generation entrepreneur. Tell us a little about your early days in Kolkata, your background, a little bit about your education as well.
Thank you so much. First things first, being part of this city since childhood, being born and brought up in Calcutta, it holds itself a very big significance because we're part of the history of such a great city. I feel that I am rooted to this place. Whenever I go out, even for like 5 days or 4 days, I always make it a point to grab my kachuri sabji or at least a singara at the side of the road. My mother keeps complaining why I don't have tea at home because I am sold to the bhade cha at the
Yeah.
roadside, and that is something that I always connect with more than any other tea, green tea or whatever tea wherever I have. So Kolkata is where I have always been connected to. I'm born and brought up here. But of course, after completing my schooling, to answer your question, after completing my schooling, I went on to basically, my school is from Lakshipat Singhania Academy. After my schooling, I went on to do a small 3 year course called BBA in Pune, Symbiosis. Uh, I loved that campus as well in Pune because Pune is also a city that is very close to like similar to Calcutta, has
Yeah.
similar vibes, very nature friendly, very green, and not that fast as Bombay or Delhi is. In fact, I was living near the airport, and if I was hungry at the middle of the night, that's all the option that me and my friends had were to walk till the airport, have our vada pav and anda burji, and come back at the middle of the night. So I was really connected well with the Pune place. Made some very good friends over there. After that, I came back to Calcutta for a small 1 year course in St. Xavier's. I did a postgraduate integrated marketing communications course. It was a diploma which aligned with my earlier internship when I was in Pune. I basically did a small internship with social media marketing. Me and a friend of mine, we started this small, I would say, a website and a blog where we would report about whatever we know about the social media marketing, the digital marketing space at that time. And we kept on uploading our opinions, our articles, and what different companies are doing about social media and digital marketing. Because when I did my internship with ITC Limited, I learned a lot from this lady called Mrs. Rupa Shankar. She sat on the ninth floor of the ITC building in the Russell Street, and she inspired me towards digital marketing. And I was given the opportunity to develop benchmarking reports for ITC Limited. And I learned a lot from the marketing division at the ITC Limited. Of course, after my St. Xavier's course, I went on to do an MBA in marketing from James Cook University in Singapore. That was a great learning experience for me because I could finally develop an international perspective.
Hmm.
Growing up in Calcutta, doing my schooling in Calcutta, we felt that we are under the four walls and we haven't seen much around the world, and
Sure.
exposure to the international market was not that much. But when I
Yeah.
did my MBA from Singapore, I made friends from around the world, and people from Austria, people from Indonesia, people from like Russia, even people from all over, Europe, and
Yeah.
I could understand why the flexibility was required. My
Yeah.
openness, my perspective of opening up to the world and being more accepting actually came from my exposure outside. And of
Yeah.
course, I still have lifelong relations with the friends I made over there.
Yeah.
And then I returned back to Calcutta.
Yeah, I think
So,
one thing I have always, and I felt this, and I always advise people, who are on the cusp of graduating uh, from their, schools or colleges in Kolkata, that it's very important to go outside at least for a few years. Because, and whatever city it may be, whether it's, Pune, Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Hyderabad, even beyond India. I think my own perspective has shaped a lot because of my staying away from Kolkata for quite a few years, and then
okay,
obviously you get that outside perspective, and you obviously, as you rightly said, the acceptance, the openness to other cultures, other kinds of people, that opens up a lot. But then you also start valuing what's great at home, and
precisely.
that's I think, something that you can only realize once you go outside for a few years. So that's always I think a motto that I would pass on to anybody who's looking to in their careers what next. I think definitely go out for a few years and then come back. So yeah, Ravindra,
Right.
on to your journey. So after the marketing specializations, the degrees and obviously internships, uh, how did the transition, and when did you sort of realize that you had to get back home and pick up the reins of the family business?
Yes. Right. So interesting you should ask that question because you see, I went on to do my MBA outside because I was very much focused that I really wanted to develop what my father has maintained and developed in my legacy, what I've been given. I wanted to learn and get myself some international exposure before I could add value back. But of course, I opened myself to the corporate world and I opening my applied to my jobs outside. And Standard Chartered and Creative Sound Systems, both these companies, they allowed me to understand what exactly you can add value by marketing and branding. That's when I realized that now I think it's high time that I return back to Calcutta because it was always my focus. And then I came back here. After coming back to Calcutta, I immediately realized that, of course, there's a huge legacy to live up to, but there
Sure.
are a lot of things that you can also add myself. I felt that there are places where it needed improvements, but of course, I needed to respect the people who have already been working as the pillars of this company for a very long time. In
Yeah.
fact, when you remember, you said that I'm just 35 years old and the company is more than 40 years old. So
Yeah.
basically, these people who have been working for the company, they've seen me playing around in half pants and shorts are all over the place. And
Yeah.
I always intended to add value while respecting what's always already been there and already been developed. So that is where I felt that I must return back now. And after coming back, I was actually, it's a very funny story how I actually joined the business. So I expected myself that when I returned back to Calcutta the next day, I would come and speak to my father in the office that now I am here and tell me what you want me to do. And my father, in fact, was not very happy that I returned back. I mean, that
Hmm.
is a very ironical situation in Marwadi households. And my father was like, "Why did you even come back? I mean, you had your opportunities from around the world. Why did you even come back?" And I said, "Listen, this has been my focus. Allow me to add value." And that's where he said, "Okay, sure. Let's see what you can do.
Hmm.
This is the office. I know you're an MBA. This is the office, but your work is not in the office. So you better go down to the shop floor and work so that you're able to understand what's been happening until now. So I'll hear from you what you want to do, but for now, you need to join the shop floor and then we'll talk about it." So that's when I was exposed immediately to the retail world. I was asked to directly interact with customers. I was asked not as a manager, but as any other worker, any other staff. I was
Yeah.
asked to basically join a shop, and those were the golden days where I learned so much about what is a retail pharmacy, what exactly are the functions, how
Yeah.
do customers interact with you, how do customers come with their problems. And it is not like a clothes retail store or a mobile phone store. It is a
Yeah.
retail store or a pharmacy where customers are probably coming not out of choice, but completely out of compulsion,
Yeah.
where you need to understand the psyche of the customer.
Yeah.
Customers sometimes they feel dissatisfied with the way their treatment has been done or how
Mhm.
their family has been treated at hospitals or nursing
Yeah.
homes or government hospitals. Then after that, they go down to the diagnostic chains where they conduct
Yeah.
the pathological tests and everything. But when they come to the retail store and somehow their expectations are not met, they will make sure to express their dissatisfaction, if at all. So
Yeah.
that is where you really need to be humble, you need to be grounded, and you need to keep your head down and listen to them what exactly they want, and ultimately make sure that their expectations are met. So that
Yeah.
is a journey for me. Those 1.5 years, 2 years that I spent on the shop floor were
Yeah.
absolutely golden for my experience.
Yeah, and I think it's
Then
it's very interesting when you spoke about humility, because when we think of in our mind, a perception is when a second generation leader comes into the business, they are immediately shown the glass cabin and the cushy chair. But in your case, you sort of worked through various roles within the organization to get an understanding of the business, and then, as you said, to understand the business, the customers, and then sort of ascended into the position that you are in today. Uh, Ravindra, would love to understand a little bit. Obviously, you mentioned the legacy that your father has built, and you're taking that forward. A little bit about that early evolution journey, and you said that the company started before you were even born. Can you take us a little bit about the early days about Dhanwantary, and obviously through your lens that you saw growing up, and obviously now that you have seen the ins and outs of the business, what do you look at? How do you look at the journey of Dhanwantary from 1984 to today?
So, absolutely, the history of this company has been absolute golden. We started in 1984. So, my father was actually working on the shop floor or the pharmacy floor of the Calcutta Medical Research Institute. That's the CMRI, or the popularly known as the Calcutta Hospital.
Yeah,
So he had been doing a few odd jobs here and there, firstly with Ananda Bajar Patrika, then he went on to sell some tea leaves, then he sold detergents, and he did here and there his small stints. And that's where my grandfather, he told him to get a job, proper job, because, generally in the Brahmin family, we are not very used to having businesses around us. With the job is secure, a job is perfect, you have a steady income, just have a job. So
yeah,
then he joined the Calcutta Medical Research Institute, the pharmacy of the CMRI Calcutta Hospital. And because of his learnings from there and his relations that he developed into the medical space, he started Dhanwantary. But even after starting the medical pharmacy shop, he did not immediately join, because as a businessman, you're expected to be at your floor, at your shop. But
Mm.
what he did was he did not immediately join the shop. He started it, he monitored it, but in the morning duty, he continued with the CMRI hospital. And
Okay.
after his duty of the morning in the CMRI hospital, he joined the pharmacy in the night. So you can say he was basically working around the clock
Hmm.
to meet our demands, to meet the family's demands, and everything else. In 1987 is when he left the job at CMRI hospital and completely started full time at the shop which he started. In 1987 is when he saw that this shop has a much more potential than just standing as a standalone shop. So he started the second shop right opposite the footpath, and there were two shops by the time I was born. So when he started seeing that the shops are getting potential, he started setting up another shop in 4 years, 5 years later. So let's say before the millennium started in the year 2000, he had set up three shops in different parts of Kolkata. One another in one in Hazra Crossing. And he always made sure to start the pharmacy store with pizzazz, with style. And he used to call like Mithun Chakrabarti, Rituparna Sengupta, Locket Chatterjee at various shop openings and inaugurations because he wanted the buy-in of the people in the locals. So,
Hmm.
generally perceived that a Marwadi person has come to do business from outside and he's opened a pharmacy store. He's probably going to do lakhs and lakhs of profits and all those things. So what
Hmm.
he ensured was that the locals are always involved. So he
Hmm.
put up all his signboards were always in the Bangla font. So he made sure that he used to write Dhanwantary in Bengali on all of the shop and the boards. And earlier on, where people were thinking that they would put up a flex or they would paint on the wall, he was the first one to set up a shop with a board
Hmm.
and everyone in the entire neighborhood of Iqbalpur used to say, "वो board वाला दुकान में जाना वहाँ मिल जाएगा." So that is what he set up, and he could see the future because he wanted to integrate forward thinking into the entire business line. Later on, in 2006, we opened our first walk-in store in Calcutta. So there was no, all the stores, if you recall, all the pharmacy stores, neighborhood
Yeah.
stores, all the counters are up until the footpath, and the customers would stand on the footpath and order, and the pharmacy would accordingly dispense the medicines. But
Yeah.
he started the first walk-in store, and that was right near PG Hospital. And late Soumitra Chatterjee was the one who inaugurated that particular store. And again, people would say, "वो कांच वाले दुकान में जाना, कांच वाले दुकान में मिलेगा." So his forward-thinking approach, his future thinking was amazingly appreciated by the people of Kolkata. And he used to go outside to, let's say, even Japan or Singapore or whatever, and then he would see what is happening at those stores and bring those to Calcutta instead of just following what the conventional practices were. So that is something that I always appreciated about him. After that, Dhanwantari started expanding one after the other. We set up our cancer division because my father lost his mother, basically my grandmother and my bua. Basically my father lost his sister also to cancer. So he set up a cancer division where it was very normal to see cancer medicines being sold at MRP in the hospitals, and cancer medicines were really really high priced, sometimes into six figures, and so on and so forth. But he, as a person from the industry, could see that the margins in cancer medicines are high, higher than what it is for normal medicines. In
Hmm.
normal medicines, the margins would somehow close to be around 25% to 30, but in cancer medicines, the margins would be much higher than 50%. He saw that why not start a cancer division for people who want these medicines at lower costs. So then he would go into tie-ups with hospitals and tell them that I would give, these are poor patients, let me sell the medicines to them at cost or maybe adding just the acquisition cost, and then probably the customers would take the chemotherapies and all those things at the hospital end. So that is
Hmm.
where he started the cancer division, and we would give the medicines just after a 5% markup on the acquisition cost or the purchase cost for us. So this allowed a lot of trust to build on the brand, and this enabled people to actually trust our brand and become a neighborhood store from slowly from serving, let's say, 200 patients per day, and to now, let's say, around 5,000 to 7,000 patients per day. And these forward thinking approaches have actually led to the company standing strong and as a pillar throughout this time. The expansion started. after 2012, where we expanded from 12 branches to 30 branches. And then, of course, the chaos of the pandemic when in
Mm-hmm.
2020, COVID arrived. None of us saw what could come. None of us saw how to meet customer expectations at that time. By the year 2020, we had around 250 staff working with us. But when the COVID pandemic started, local trains were not working, buses were not plying throughout the streets. So it was very difficult to even get our staff at the branches. So from 250, we came down to just 60 staff working in 30 branches. And we had to meet customer expectations. So even from day one, we always made sure we had the sanitizers, properly licensed sanitizers. We made sure we had masks, genuine masks, and not the fake ones that would say they are two ply, but then we
Mm-hmm.
had to make sure that they were at least three ply before we sold them to the customers. And we also made sure that we are not taking advantage of the situation by holding back profits with us. We made sure that the prices were reasonable so that people actually pick up the masks, people pick up face shields, people pick up sanitizers, and bring it as part of their daily lives during the pandemic. Slowly, steadily, our staff were able to, cooperate with all the customers' expectations. Some customers said, "I am at the MR Bangur quarantine center. Can you bring it to me over here?" And one branch manager called me and told me, "Sir, this is a query. What do I even do? My mother is sick at home. I have to go back tonight. If I expose myself at the MR Bangur, what do I even do?" So I said, "Okay, just wait for a few minutes." I kept the phone down. I thought about it. And then I jumped into the car. I picked up the medicine from my branch and I went to the MR Bangur hospital. And I stood in line. And when I reached the counter, they said, "Yes, tell me what you want." And I said, "This is a medicine for a patient." She said, "Why are you standing in this line? This line is full of COVID patients. You please go to the back door." I went to the back door, and then there are people dressed in PPEs. And they said, "If this is a patient medicine, just keep it on the floor and go back." I kept it on the floor. I went back. I came back home. I took a shower immediately to as to not expose anyone. And then
Yeah.
I joined the office. And my father asked me, "Where were you?" I said, "I went to give medicine to a patient." And he said, "Where?" I said, "MR Bangalore." He said, "You are risking yourself."
Yeah. I
Then,
think.
we battled through
Well,
all these things.
yeah.
Amphan cyclone came. We were still open each and every day. And it is completely because of my staff, our workforce, whom I just cannot ignore. I just cannot go on without appreciating. Because if anything we are today, it is only and only because of the staff, the field force, and people who have acted as pillars for this organization.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic journey and story of, I would say, resilience and perseverance, going through many bends along the road of these 40 years of Dhanwantari, and obviously many more to come. Um, Ravindra, tell us a little bit about the scale of Dhanwantari today, and the scale of operations, the scale of the business, and with you taking up the reins of CEO, what are your plans going forward? If you can elaborate a bit on that as well.
Sure. So, the scale at which we are, so we're serving around 5,000 to 7,000 customers daily throughout our branches. We have our branches from Dhanyakali Tarkeshwar in the Hooghly district up until Bajbaj in the south of West Bengal of Calcutta, up until Rajpur in the Baripur district, and in the North Calcutta we are up until Shambazar. Uh, Under what I would, how I look at the vision for this company's future, I want to see this company grow from strength to strength. We have an ambitious target of reaching 50 branches by the next by 2028. And this is something that I want to work on towards reaching more and more branches and more communities. I want to expand more into the suburban areas because I have seen that this brand has a lot of power in the suburban areas as well,
Mhm.
wherein the customers are looking for reliable healthcare. Because you see, there is a lot of fake medicines that are in circulation, and there are ASSOCHAM reports, Association of Chambers of Commerce, have reported that 25% of the medicines in circulation are fake. That means one in four medicines in circulation are fake. And that is something that is a huge surprise to me, because
Hmm.
we have seen regulation in West Bengal being very strict with how pharmacies have maintained their environment premises, how pharmacies have maintained their staff, and how we are making sure that the quality medicines reach the customers. And I was surprised to see such a statistic. And even now, I know there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes when it comes to fake insulins, when it comes to saline who are not filled with proper NS. And we have seen a small trailer of what was exposed during the Abhaya case in the Arjikar hospital. I
Yeah.
feel a lot could be done, but more on that later.
Yeah.
Regarding the Dhanwantary scale, I feel that I want to also diversify into the wellness and the food space, where customers are now becoming more and more aware of what they're putting into their bodies,
Yeah.
how we are eating, the kind of food that is there. Kudos to some of the influencers who have spread some kind of awareness among the people who want to see what they're reading, what they're eating by reading the labels on the pack.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
the labels of most of the packs were ignored by many Indians, and even today's date, people don't read labels. But
Yeah.
kudos to the influencers who are trying to spread this kind of message in the world and in
Yeah.
the country. And I think the food department has also, taken into account the influencers' contribution, and even the food department is now integrating with this. So now I also want to work on the food and wellness space, wherein we can give customers alternate and plant-based food and nutrition, so that they
Yeah.
are able to live a much more complete and well-balanced life. So that is my vision for the company in the future.
Yeah, no, interesting. You mentioned the label piece because I think the one of the most popular influencers in this space is the food farmer Revant Hemat Singha,
Of course, of
and
course.
he's a Calcutta boy too.
Oh
So
yes, oh yes.
yeah, so I think he's doing fantastic work. Ravindra, you're going into the wellness space, other categories as well. What attracted me about the chain was, along with just setting up shops, you also are offering a Sanjeevani Club membership to your
Yes.
customers. And then I also was reading further, and then I saw that you also have a Dhanwantari Seva Foundation. If you can talk a little bit
Yes.
about these two initiatives as well.
Sure. So, in fact, in the year 2007, I think the Sanjeevani Club was started, wherein it first started with the diabetics only, where we would provide them free health checkups on a monthly basis at all our branches, so that their sugar and their BP is monitored. After that, this went on to empanel more and more members, not just the diabetics. And this is how the slowly and steadily the Sanjeevani family started growing. Then came along a tie-up with Kolkata Police, and then we started our own. We rebranded our entire loyalty program into something called a Pranam card. So Pranam card was something that was started for the customers to avail discounts on medicines that were at that time were unheard of. I mean, only the near and dear ones of a pharmacy owner would somehow get 10% discounts at pharmacies. But then we saw that, with volume of our company, we saw that we were getting better margins. So again, with the thought process of the cancer division, we started setting up the Pranam card, wherein we started giving more and more discounts to customers. So again, discounts were unheard of back then. So the family started growing, and now the Pranam family has more than 1.5 lakh members. And we feel that customers are really availing benefits because of this. Moving on to the CSR CSR wing of ours, that is the Dhanwantary Seva Foundation. So Dhanwantary Seva Foundation started because of our driver at that time. You will ask how? It's because we heard him. So he said he was having a financial trouble, and that is when he came to my father, and he said that he would require support for his daughter's education because he was not able to pay the fees. So my father said okay. Then he went on to tell the local panwala. So the panwala also came. Then a rickshawala came. Slowly and steadily, my father said, okay, now I think I should formalize this.
Hmm.
So on today's date, we sponsor the education of 125 girl children only. We have promised to only benefit the girl children, and we had some challenges in that space as well. Sometimes the fathers used to come and take the fees for their girl children, and then the mother used to come and ask for the fees, and we used to say we've already given it to the father. And then we
Hmm.
understood that there is something untoward happening.
Yeah.
So then we started formalizing it. We actually started having agreements with the schools, with MOUs with the schools. And our person from our office would go to these schools and pay the fees, get it stamped, and get it back. So that is how we started formalizing it. So Dhanwantary Seva Foundation now does more than 125 girl children. Along with that, we also do medical camps in various communities across Kolkata, where we give free generic medicines to all the people who have been checked on that day, along with doctors. And of course, Dhanwantary Seva Foundation has been doing a lot more because we take out 1 rupee from every bill for this. So let's say
Okay.
if today there are 5,000 bills being made, 5,000 rupees has been set aside for the Dhanwantari Seva Foundation. So it is completely dedicated towards them and for the benefit of mankind. Because my father has been a Rotarian, and of course, he also made me a Rotarian. Rotary has been a very big part of who I am while growing up. My father has been
Yeah.
the district governor for Rotary, and now I am also a Rotarian trying to do good for the community as well.
One thing I think has always come up in this conversation, Ravindra, and I couldn't obviously, miss that thread, that it's always been about community. It's always been about
Yes.
the connection with the local people. Whereas, a lot of businesses today that thrive and then struggle, it's growth at any cost, profits at any cost. But what I'm seeing as a recurring trend throughout the journey, it's always, obviously, business profits are important for sustainability of business, but you do it by passing on a large chunk of the benefits to the community that is helping you grow. I
Yes.
think that comes from the legacy from your father, and you are carrying on that as well. uh,
Yes.
Ravindra, switching gears a little bit here, once you took over formally from your father as CEO, uh, how did you adjust to making changes within the business? You said obviously you respect the legacy, you respect the history, but obviously there's scope for improvement. So take us a little bit about that journey as CEO of the company, and obviously we can talk about and you talked about some of those challenges that came along the way, natural disasters, other disasters, and to struggle through those, to carry forward through those. Take us through your CEO journey a little bit.
So yeah, in fact, when I started the company, when I started working for the company or working with the company, like I said, after coming back from my MBA and my Singapore stint, I was in fact asked to be on the shop floor. After my shop floor, I was asked to set up the e-commerce division, wherein the
Mhm.
home delivery division was started. After that, working on that we worked for 2 years on that. I set up the private label division after that, wherein our own brand of Ayurvedic medicines were brought into the market. So up until the pandemic, the people in the company saw me grow from strength to strength and add value in my own way by not disrespecting anyone, by not, let's say, disrupting the pace. But of course, I wanted to create my own space, create my own identity. So, as second generation businessmen or businesswomen, we all have to create our own space. We don't somehow it's not served to us at times. There are places where you can see affluent families where the generation takes after the first generation, and then you reach a place where people start giving you authority only and only because of your surname. But
Yeah.
I started creating my own space not just because of my surname or because ye babu ka beta hai, but only because I started adding value to places where people saw that I can add value too. People saw
Sure.
me working on the shop floor. People saw me doing deliveries. People saw me doing things for the customers. And then they understood that my interest aligns with their interest. And even their interest was to make sure the customer expectations are met. To make sure any decision was implemented, I had to, of course, face some challenges. There were challenges coming from the previous generation. There were challenges from the staff that was there from day one of the company, and now I feel I have earned their trust. I feel they also cooperate with me at places. And now the people who joined us from 1984, even their children are into the company. So a new generation of this, we have six people from the second generation, or even of the staff joining us. So an entire community of our ecosystem of the staff, wherein everyone wants to work towards meeting customers' expectations, started, and then the ball started rolling. And as part of my CEO journey, I've also seen, you know, I would just like to take a minute also to speak about more about how second generation businessmen they feel. See, why most businesses it's actually a very well established statistic that most businesses don't last more than the third generation.
Hmm.
Uh, I really hope, I really wish. I mean, who's seen the future of how the way things have been happening around the entire country, where we are heading towards some duopoly or monopoly in some industries. I don't
Yeah.
know what's holding in the future for the pharmacy industry, or who's to take control of who's that stake. And sometimes there are a lot of regional players in the entire country, and these regional players are slowly getting acquired by big companies like Tata 1mg or Farmeasy or Reliance and all these things. But what I will probably, like, personally, what I feel is that when the personal experience or the personal drive comes into play, only and only then the customer expectations are met.
Sure.
Somehow the connect with the customers and the companies are losing with the advent of AI, with chatbots coming into place, where even the customer service is not done through humans.
Yeah.
I have nothing against artificial intelligence. I have nothing against chatbots, but it is very important for us to understand that in the health space specifically, it is very important that you have the human touch with customers.
Hmm.
uh, like in our competition, we have Frank Ross, we have Apollo, we have MedPlus. I, in fact, meet with all of their officials. I mean, the Frank Ross founders and the Frank Ross business people at the helm, they meet with us almost on a monthly basis. Even at Apollo and MedPlus, there are people who are always in touch with us. And somehow I've seen that, when a company becomes more of a corporate style, the
Yeah.
health in the health space, the customers start losing trust.
Yeah.
And it is very important to keep that trust by keeping the human connect with the staff, with the customers. I mean, in one of our branches, we had to shuffle our staff for some reason. And I was standing in that branch because I usually go for daily visits for my shops. I was just standing in the branch, and one customer said, "Arey, ওই ছেলেটা কোথায় গেল? Where is that staff?" And the manager told her that, "Ma'am, I think he's been transferred for some reason." Then she said, "সবাই যদি পুরনো জন চলে যায় তাহলে আমরা কোথায় যাব?" So somehow I felt very happy that that old staff had that connect with the customer, because
Yeah.
sometimes we have seen there are some aged customers who will
Yeah.
not buy the entire strip of medicine from our store. Why? Because they like to come out of their house on a daily basis. There are
Yeah.
retired senior citizens who don't step out if they don't have an excuse. They want to find an excuse to step out of their rooms. So
Yeah.
they will probably come down, they will sit with our staff. They'll have a conversation with them. They'll buy one tablet. They'll have it with the water available at that branch. Then they'll even call, if they are in a very good mood, they'll even call for tea for all of our staff. And he'll have a very good conversation with our staff. And then he'll probably walk back home, because they strive for that human connect. And
Yeah.
that is something that a Bengali customer really, really appreciates. Where if you are able to connect with them, if you are able to speak with them, have a kind of a touch with them, they want to come back to you.
No, and that's heartening, Ravindra. Obviously, when when you say that this human connection is somewhere getting lost, also I believe it's a generational thing. Like our generation and the one that is already on smartphones, we want everything now. We don't want human connection. Leave the order at the door. Don't ring the bell. uh, how do you balance these two demographics and customer preferences? On one side you have people who are yearning for human connection when they are making a transaction, and on the other hand, there is a generation that's here or coming who abhor human connection. So, being in your position, how do you manage these two customer preference segments?
I mean, I'm so glad you picked this up. I was just, I read this somewhere, and yesterday I tweeted about it as well. That there are people having children now whose parents were not born when the Jurassic Park was released. So that somehow blew my mind. It is
Yeah,
very important in our health space to deal with all kinds of customers because over here you don't have a niche customer. You're not selling protein powder where there's only the affluent people buying it, or you're not just selling Boroline that only the other segment. It's something that is connecting with everyone.
yeah,
So there are people coming from a Mercedes to a Maruti to a bus to a local train, from people wearing pants to saris to lungis to everyone coming to our store. And you have to make sure that you connect with everyone. Uh, Coming exactly to answer your question precisely, yes, to strike a balance with people who abhor human connection and also yearn for human connection, we have to make sure that we find a midway. That is why we not only take home delivery orders on phone, but we also take home delivery orders from mail and WhatsApp. There are people who there are customers who don't can't read a doctor's prescription, so we were the
yeah,
first ones to integrate send your prescription by WhatsApp, and we will read it for you, and we will ensure that you have your medicines. So we have to make some industry first decisions to connect with both generations, because sometimes there are the decision making power
yeah,
or the decision making authority in households is changing
yeah,
from the older generation to the younger generation. Like when I
yeah,
grew up, I would not personally be sent to the local pharmacy or the local kirana wala to do this or do that. But I would be asked, given 10 rupees, go buy this from that shop and get it fast. At that time, I would never think that this is required or an app would be required or something like that. But now the decision making is coming to the people of the children, where
yeah,
they will say that mom, you give the money, that is fine, but I will make the decision of which brand soap will enter our house. So the marketing communications of various FMCG companies have also changed to not
yeah.
target the parents, but to target the children. That is why
Mm,
it is very important to connect with the younger generation and to be where they are. So that is what it is in an entire industry where newspaper advertisements was the norm. We made
yeah,
sure that we start social media marketing much in advance, also because of my experience into it. But yeah,
yeah.
it is very much required for people to connect with you, and you need to be where your customer is.
Wonderful. Ravindra, obviously, we'll switch a little bit. The healthcare, the pharma, is obviously extremely highly regulated, and you mentioned that in Bengal, you've had very tough regulations. But when you have very tough regulations, it also can make lives difficult for businesses to operate. Um, so how have you, as the leader in this space, navigated these challenges? On one hand, there is this regulation control. On the other hand, you want affordability, you want customer connection, you want to build that trust. How do you navigate these two challenges in your space?
See, I completely respect the requirement of regulations. I I want to start by saying that because there are rules and regulations for a reason. There are
Sure,
societal rules, then there comes government rules and regulations. Because it somehow benefits both parties, it creates a win-win situation for pharmacies, for customers, and everyone else. Like the storage conditions in your pharmacy need to be in a certain temperature. Like
sure.
there are no footwear should be allowed where the medicines are kept. There should not be a single window where dust can come inside. Only there should be one main door. But of course, West Bengal has been the drug inspectors and the drug regulators have been strict with their inspections and sample collections, forever. Nothing new about it. But then West Bengal is going through a phase of proving to its citizens that one government is better than the other. I feel whenever someone tries to prove that I am superior and you are inferior,
Hmm.
that is the crux of most problems. In West Bengal, we've been seeing, at the same time, we've also seen national regulations increase. We have seen more control and more regulations coming in for income tax and GST. Of course, in today's date, if you are not complying and if you cannot see the writing on the wall, somehow you are the one who's going to lose out in the future.
Sure.
For us to navigate through both of these things, it has been, yes, to gain the customer's trust, we following regulations, the trust can come as a byproduct. But then for you to reach the customers and then tell them that this is what we have been doing, a regulation needs to also step in so that people cannot badmouth another brand.
Sure.
At the same time, there are issues when it comes to, uh, some people call it ease of doing business, some people call it ease of opening business, some people call it various names. I have my own reservations, I have my own opinions as to how much doing business and how much doing, opening, even opening a business is easy or important or difficult in West Bengal or in the country altogether, I should say, because my opinions are not to disrespect any particular government, or my opinions are not to disrespect any particular segment or community, but at times you need to understand that in Europe there was a time and there was a phase where people were too liberal, people were too flexible, and now Europe is suffering when it had to open its mouth.
Yeah.
Because they did not open their mouth at times, Europe has also now suffered. At the same time, West Bengal has to understand what its people want. And after all, governance is for the people. It
Yeah.
is very important that the people feel more and more friendly, they feel more and more flexible, they feel that their government is approachable. Somehow I feel there is a huge disconnect between the government and its people, and
Hmm.
that is being taken advantage of by various people, by various groups and various communities. And somehow, you see, it's a very important question in the entire business space. We must ask as businessmen that, after all, the taxpayers in this country is a very small portion.
Yeah.
Very small percentage of people are the taxpayers.
Yeah.
But are the taxpayers really benefiting from anything?
Yeah.
I feel the taxpayers are the ones who are losing out in this country or in this state. And people who are not paying tax are the
Yeah.
ones who are getting freebies by the government because they want to show that the government loves them. And this is somehow becoming not a win win situation, but a lose lose situation on both sides.
Yeah.
It's an alarming situation, and I really hope that someone in the government would open their eyes and see as to what the taxpayers and the other citizens actually need. Because you see, giving freebies is not going to benefit anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I should hold my opinions further for this.
Yeah. No, I think it's a nice segue to perhaps the last segment today that I want to dwell on. You started the podcast with your love for the city, the love for the state, how it has shaped who you are today. It has shaped Dhanwantary what it is today, and how it's growing. And along with all that optimism and all that love, there is also certain things that you wish were different, could be better. So as a second generation business leader in Kolkata, growing a family legacy and business and taking it to new frontiers, navigating the corporate competition as well as the government regulations, changing customer preference, it's quite a lot. uh, from your perspective today, how do you see, and obviously you alluded to some aspects of policy and governance that leave much to be desired. How do you see Kolkata today, Bengal today, and what do you think we are missing out? Because whenever, I've had this conversation with, almost 30 plus people on this podcast, and there's a recurring theme there that, all the other metros are progressing at a much faster rate. They are leaps and bounds ahead of Kolkata. Why are we always behind? Why are there lesser jobs? Why are there lesser entrepreneurs? Why are there lesser funding in this space? Why is the salary low? Why are people leaving? This has been a recurrent theme, and a theme of, the podcast that we've heard from people. And obviously there is optimism, but the facts are undeniable. So, and hence probably our name, Kolkata Calling. So wanted to understand, how do you look at all of this? The positives we've spoken about, but what can we do to change the situation that impacts not just, business leaders, but also the common people who want to earn a decent livelihood and have a good quality of life at in their hometown and not have to move out? What would your take be?
See, Shubhida, actually, this requires a much more balanced thought process to answer. I feel that Bengal was a place, and I use the word was a place because there were a lot of future thinking leaders from here. People like Meghnad Saha to Tagore to people up until even the 90s, where we have seen such visionary leaders come out of this place. But I feel there are two things that have now become as part of the corporate, as part of the core DNA of Bengal. One is the people pleasing attitude.
Sure.
I feel that you need to understand when to draw a line and when to say no. That comes as something very important that I feel in the DNA of Bengal. I think even my particular character, there is a certain people pleasing uh, angle to it. So yeah, that is one thing. The second thing is the ethos of our state and the people is somehow been shaped over decades, not towards work, but more towards art, more towards creating things, but somehow not sustaining them. Uh, See, who said Bengal में धंधा नहीं होता? Who said यहाँ पे काम नहीं है? There are companies like ITC Limited. There are companies like Future Group from Pantaloons. There are companies like Imami. There are companies like, I mean, the list just goes on and on. Who have started Berger and all these. They started from our very much this very state, and they have done really, really great things, really good businesses. But somehow the governance from the last, I would say, 20-25 years has completely changed towards satisfying the needs of people who revolt more and not listening to people who speak less. You
Hmm.
see, if you just want to listen to people who are loud, you end up doing loud things.
Yeah.
But if you don't listen to people who are silent and want to add value, you don't listen to them when they speak because they speak very less. You see, businessmen, they have the habit of speaking less and listening more. And when you need to speak with the industry, when you need to speak with the corporates and the businessmen, I mean, there should be a better connect between the government and the chambers of commerce and the people and the businessmen. Because ultimately, you see, the people, they receive freebies, they receive gifts, and they receive benefits because there's someone paying taxes.
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm the only one paying taxes. There
Mm.
are 250 employees in my company who pay taxes. Everyone ultimately pays taxes because they're on the streets, they're buying things, so they're paying GST.
Yeah.
But someone is contributing more and more, and those that someone are the businessmen. Just recently, I saw that I even posted about this on social media. I generally don't post things on social media when it comes to the government, but something that really irritates me, I post it. Why? Because all incentives for all manufacturing concerns, all the state run incentives were withdrawn for the manufacturing concerns, especially for the people like the small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
You see, small and medium enterprises, they form the bulk of the tax paying community. There are, of
Yeah.
course, people like, the major corporates, the thousands of crores of revenues earning companies who are paying a very big amount, who are contributing a very huge chunk. But then, you see, the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises are the ones who are running and who are giving a lot of employment for this country, for the state.
Yeah.
There should be a dialogue. There should be a place where people connect with them. You see, if I have to open a new business and if I go on to, let's say, KMC for a trade license, it just cannot take 30 to 45 days to issue me a trade license. I mean, you claim on your website that there are, we have the shortest trade license, we have the best. I mean, I was actually surprised to see that, West Bengal earned the Scotch Award for SKOCH award for the ease of doing business. I mean, what ease of doing business? I it may be controversial to hear this, but
Yeah.
absolutely not. There's nothing easy about doing business in Bengal.
Yeah.
I mean, there are the local people, the dadas and the didis, and then there are so many other things that come forward. How does one navigate through so many challenges and not focus on the customer? It's just very difficult. It's for people to understand these things that ultimately the businesses are the ones who are running economies, and
Yeah.
it's very important to understand that of course there is the government is looked as positively when they take from the rich and give to the poor, and this mentality is fine when it comes to it. It sounds good, but it doesn't work. It's
Yeah.
very important to understand what the industry is contributing, and ultimately there are people who have seen in my own personal network who are very affluent families who set up their businesses here, but then they moved out.
Yeah.
The question is, why did they move out? Only yesterday there was a family, I heard from my mother that they stay in one of the very big buildings of Kolkata, the landmark buildings of Kolkata, like the 42 and the Atmosphere. And only yesterday I heard from my mother, she told me, they shifted to Gujarat. I said, why? She said, their export work is increasing and they face a lot of challenges in the port over here. So it felt, the business environment was much better over there.
Yeah.
So, you can't just walk into a bank and you speak to an employee that I want XYZ service, and they behave like, you ask for their kidney.
Hmm.
I mean, you are sitting on that desk you hold a particular designation, you hold a particular position because you've been entrusted to do the welfare of the people. And if someone comes and asks for a form, you're not supposed to say, I don't know, ab wahan jaiye, hobe na, aajke aise aase nahi kaje. I don't understand why is this the ethos of the people so against working?
Yeah.
And somehow this is not, I'm not going to blame a government for this because somehow this has come into the DNA of our people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I myself felt at times that my productivity could have been much better if had I been in another state or a country. But I cannot blame that. I have to make most of the situation. I have to deal with the cards I have been dealt. I have to play with the cards I have been dealt. And
Yeah.
that's what I think business is all about.
I think that's a strong wake up call, and I think a lot of people will will sugarcoat it, but appreciate Ravindra for sharing your candid take, and I did read the post that you're talking about where there has been a reallocation done for the common good, but in fact it's going to hurt businesses in the long term and hurt the state and economy in the long term as well. So there is
I mean, see,
definitely,
I'm just
yeah,
I'm disturbing you over here, but I grew up reading the Harry Potter, and
yeah,
there's a scene where Albus Dumbledore speaks to Harry about the greater good concept. You see, you said for the common good, but what is the greater good? Can the common good, if the common good is not sustainable, will it remain
yeah,
good? It's
yeah,
like right now, I am hungry and I want to order a burger. I'll eat that burger, but I'm going to regret it later in my life. So it's very important that I understand that having a salad will probably benefit me even more.
yeah, yeah. And which as you rightly said, the government is a reflection of its people, because we bring the government to power, and we keep bringing them back into power uh, because of certain perceived benefits that we get. But uh, and obviously it's important to raise these questions, but it also, I think, is equally important for introspection as to how did we turn out to be like this. And probably therein lies the answer as to why state X, Y, and Z are soaring in terms of their numbers and industries and startups, and we are lagging behind. Ravindra, really, really appreciate you sharing all these, candid opinions. Uh, Before we close, on a positive note, uh, you remain surprisingly optimistic despite all the challenges that you continue to face on a day-to-day basis. Um, some lessons, learnings that have stayed with you, which you could pass on to aspiring entrepreneurs, aspiring business leaders in the space, across this industry. What would some of those lessons or learnings be from your experience that others can benefit from?
See, I really don't think I'm as experienced. I'm just 35, so I don't have so many learnings to give. But of course, when I speak to my students in management colleges, I have a lot of fun with them. But yeah, two things that I will want to leave behind as while signing off. See, the first thing that I always live by, something that I always live by, is I spent this in my first podcast also. That is called Veritas Equitas. So that is a code that I always follow, and that is, honor and justice, personal honor and justice in any situation whatsoever. Uh, because this has something allowed me to remain true to my roots. It has allowed me to remain grounded. It has allowed me to remain much more planted to the ground and not soar high just by thinking, I am a second generation businessman and this and that. So yeah, Veritas Equitas is something I always live by. Second thing, I will always insist any second generation businessman that I anywhere, anytime meet, any businessman or a businesswoman, whenever I meet, I always tell them one thing, that don't see, we all are full of energy. I mean, we want to do so many things, and especially when we are in the observation mode, when we are not working for the business, but we are just observing. At that time, we are flooded with ideas, we are flooded with energy, we are flooded with changes that we want to make. uh, I always feel that a businessman in a second generation should firstly respect what has been done for decades in that business, because someone at that time had the right kind of reasoning to implement that particular
Sure.
decision. You were not in that decision, you were not in that place to make that decision. At that time, you need to first understand why this was done, and if this was done, how did it benefit the customer. So you need to be much more customer centric than egocentric to make your decisions, so that the vision of other companies does not make your mission. To
Yeah.
make your own mission, you need to have your own vision. So that is something that I always live by, and I would also like to leave off by signing off.
Wonderful. Ravindra, it's been a fantastic 1 hour. We just crossed the 1 hour mark. Thank
What
you
I
so
just
much.
saw the time.
But thank you so much for taking the time, and really, really appreciate you coming in here and sharing your journey, Dhanwantari's journey, as well as very, very, I would say, candid, honest feedback on what's working and what's not working in
I
the
mean,
state.
I must say this, yet you're speaking so many good things, but not as a return, but not as a rebound. But I will definitely say this one thing, that whenever I follow your posts, especially on LinkedIn, I always see that you are also a very optimistic person for the business landscape in Kolkata and in Bengal. You have always shared how great offices and the businesses and the landmark decisions made by great companies who are doing business here, and even the recent you shared about so many things. How there are so many companies like Titagarh Railway Systems and what the metros have been doing and how we are growing. I mean, we are a city which had the first metro in India. So
Yeah.
we must understand that
About the
your
same time
optimism
as Dhanwantary was established, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
around the
Probably
same time. Yes, sir.
probably the same year. Yeah.
Probably the same way. So yes, it is very important that we remain optimistic. And
Yeah.
when I see your posts, I get reminded of the optimism that I should be having for working over here, so that I do not lose any kind of motivation to flock away.
No, I think we need more people like you who can balance optimism with constructive criticism. So thank you, Ravindra,
I
for
really
taking the time.
appreciate. I really appreciate.
It's been wonderful. With that, I think we'll close this podcast today. Thank you, Ravindra. Have a great day and all the best for your own journey as well as Dhanwantari as well.
Thank you so much, Subed. All the best to you as well. Stay healthy.
Thank you.